So I remember phoning my agent saying, "Oh, Debbie, I think I might be in trouble. I'm kind of being escorted by police with Professor Green the Rapper, and I think I might need bailing out or something." And she went, "I imagine he's got this sorted. Like he's a bit more gangster than you, Max. Keep your cardigan on, things will be fine."
Hello, it's Zoe, and welcome back to the Mischief Movement podcast, your weekly inspo for people looking for more hell yeah in their life. Consider this your one-way ticket out of midlife mediocrity towards fun and positive impact via playful disruption. Wouldn't you love to wake up and feel like a total badass? How about breaking some rules, throwing two fingers up to society and doing more of the things you love? I'm talking full-on freedom, adventure, and those meaningful connections I know you've been craving. Stop waiting for your amazing life to happen and go get it. I'll be picking the brains of some true game changers and mischief makers so I can share what I find and hopefully inspire you to shake things up, do more of what makes you feel alive, and boldly rebel against the ordinary. I've no idea what I'm doing, to be honest, but I've got a mission and I'm here to start a movement. It's going to be quite the adventure. Care to join me? Okay, here goes. Listen up, mischief makers. I found us a new mentor, and he goes by the name of Max McMurdo. You'll have seen him getting into all sorts of design and upcycling challenges across various TV shows, including George Clark's Amazing Spaces, Find It, Fix It, Flog It, and even appearing on Dragon's Den. But in this episode, we barely touch on the TV stuff, or even the books he's published. I wanted to get to know the real Max, what lights him up, how he navigates being on screen and off, living in a floating shipping container, and how he's rebelling against the ordinary by being his authentic self, creating a lifestyle that feels good and using his creativity to give back. There was so much more I wanted to talk about, but for now, we'll have to make do with a 60-minute snapshot, which I am thrilled to be able to share with you right now. Well, I am super excited, as I always say, but this time also very nervous to introduce Max McMurdo to the Mischief Movement podcast this week. It's fabulous to have you.
Thank you very much. I don't know why you're nervous. You shouldn't be nervous. You're the owner of the mischievousness. So
I told you it's the blue tick. If anybody doesn't know, Max has a blue tick, the official blue tick on Instagram, and that is causing me a world of nerves.
I guess I should be more nervous though, because I don't know what you're going to ask me. We've never met.
That's true. That's very true. I haven't briefed you at all, have I?
That's the best way though. Let's just go for it. Let's have a creative, mischievous discussion.
It sounds brilliant. So I guess my first question is, what is your mischief? Because you've got your hands in so many different pies.
That's a good question. What is my mischief? I think my life is quite mischievous, actually. And I guess the role of a designer is probably to be mischievous and to ask questions constantly. I think I've always done it. I'm very fortunate. I've never had a career change. I've never had a moment of midlife crisis where I've had to rejig and retrain. I've always just enjoyed being creative and doing things differently and asking, what if we did it differently? So one of my favourite situations is particularly on a building site or a site full of traditional tradespeople where they say, we've always done it that way, mate. Like, what? No, that's a very good reason to change the way we're doing it. So, for example, I live in a floating shipping container, which sounds bizarre, but actually that was me being mischievous and asking, should we live in bricks and mortar? Do we need to live on land? Am I enjoying the place where my cottage is located? Do I want to live in this exact house in this exact location? Or actually, do I want something mobile and portable? And I think this is a very fortunate time to grow up in as well, where we can be mischievous, we can think differently, we can challenge the status quo. So in short, which wasn't a very short answer in reality, I guess my entire life and my career is just based around being mischievous.
Which makes you the most perfect guest for this podcast, because as you're telling me this thing, my face is just lighting up, because I think our ability to be able to think differently is, ultimately what's going to lead us towards living a better life. If we just sit there and accept everything as read,
we lose that kind of sense of curiosity, and it feels like you have curiosity in abundance.
I think that's possibly my only skill. Someone asked me the other day what my title was, what my job was. And I said, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not a woodworker or a metal worker or a fabricator of any particular material. I just like asking questions, being a little bit provocative at times, and seeing if there's another solution to the norm. So I don't work in any one material. I'm not even just a designer, really. I'm not a product designer or interior designer or stylist. I'm a complete jack of all trades. But recently I learned that the phrase jack of all trades initially was a very positive phrase. There's like a second part of that phrase that goes on to say and suggest, I think it was Shakespeare even, that it's good to be a jack of all trades and to experiment and sample lots of different techniques and materials and stuff.
Hey, I'm just jumping in as I'm editing this because I'm also a huge fan of this saying. I only discovered the second part of the phrase about 2 years ago, and it was a game changer, right? It goes like this: a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. Make a note of it, keep it somewhere safe. Being a jack of all trades is an amazing thing to be. Anyway, on with the episode.
I'm fully aware I'm not the best woodworker or metal worker or fabricator, but I do love being provocative and asking if there's a better way of doing things. And that's kind of the main objective. And I guess the other objective I've got is I always envisage, whether it's a TV show or a YouTube video or a little video or photographs or a design that I'm coming up with, I always imagine 15-year-old me, because I was a bit mischievous at school, to be honest. I wasn't academic in the slightest. I got quite bored with academia, because for me, old school academia was, do you have a good memory? Can you remember this long enough to recite it in an exam? A star, well done. For me, that isn't intelligence or the ability to be a good human or a happy human. That is just testing one small factor, which now is null and void, because actually memory is all on a computer. Memory is on our phones. Memory is one of the simplest things to accomplish now. Problem solving, lateral thinking, that's for me, that's what an exciting person is. But when I was 15, couldn't relate to the school system, wasn't academic, and therefore wasn't seen as valuable, didn't feel self-worth, didn't necessarily feel like I was a success because I couldn't remember these multiplications and equations like my teachers wanted me to. So I now, when I'm filming a show, always think 15-year-old me is sat there disinterested, doesn't feel worthy, doesn't feel valued at school with the traditional school system. Can I get that person excited by engineering or thinking differently or design or one of those subject matters? So when we're filming these shows, I just think, is there a 15-year-old lad sat there feeling inspired by what I'm doing? If not, why not? What can I do to make that exciting for that person to engage and maybe feel that they have a career, they have a future, they have something that they can get their teeth into and enjoy as an adult?
I love that. And it's interesting, isn't it, how, you describe your 15-year-old self as not feeling worthy. And it's so hard going through a school system when your skills are not quite what they want them to be and what they expect them to be. I also consider myself to be a designer maker. And I know that when I left school, the view was very much like, well, if you're a creative, you're probably not going to do that well. You're probably going to struggle to make money. So there was always this kind of view of, well, it's great. My parents were completely encouraging, I might just add, they never stopped me. I went into a degree in footwear design and I did enjoy it. But I do remember being this kind of societal expectation of, well, it will be harder for you because you're creative. Not, wow, you've got something extra about you. It's almost like, well, you're not going to go into marketing, you're not going to go into this, you're not going to probably make any money, but it's great that you found something that you're really passionate about. Well done,
Yeah, or the other thing is, that'll be a lovely hobby. If you want to make artistic furniture out of rubbish, that'll be lovely. Do that in the evenings and weekends and go and become an accountant during the day to pay the bills, because you must have a mortgage. Well, I haven't got a mortgage because I've deliberately built my own house out of a shipping container. So I don't have that. So the other thing I've realised is design your lifestyle to do the job you want to do. Don't do a job straight after school and then realise, oh, wow, now I only have 7 p.m. till 9 p.m. to enjoy my actual life and then weekends.
Oh, I love that. Design your lifestyle. Yes.
Yeah, design it the other way
definitely.
around. So I deliberately don't have a mortgage. Yeah, and that's the role of designers. So I do, going back to my 15-year-old self, I'd like to make a thank you, actually, if I don't. I'm going to hijack your podcast to thank my design teacher, Mr. John Bonson,
yes.
because he saw that value in 15-year-old me. Many of the other teachers just dismissed me and disregarded me, I suppose, and rightly so. I was quite disruptive and annoying. So I think that is what designers are here for. I feel a huge, not pressure. I think it's up to designers to change the world. And that sounds like an overstatement, but a lot of people go to work and they just fulfill their role. They do as they're asked to do. They don't need to change the status quo. But designers are there to question everything.
You're so right.
Is it the right material, the right aesthetic, the right solution to the problem? Is the problem even there? So I nearly got arrested once, and I didn't get arrested. Don't worry, there's a good end to the story.
Well, you know what? It doesn't matter on here. You're allowed to be mischievous, so, you know.
Yes. So Professor Green posted on Instagram that Bournemouth Council had put metal bars on the middle of their benches in Bournemouth. And I went to university in Bournemouth. I'm very proud of being from Bournemouth in some respects. And this was claimed to be to help old people get up and down off the benches. Blatantly, it was to stop homeless people seeking refuge and raising their body temperature by about 2 degrees by staying off the cold, wet floor at night. And I thought, that's really not okay. That's terrible. I agree, homelessness isn't pretty to look at, but that's a good thing to feel, because then we should maybe solve the root cause of the problems and give these people support where they need it, not prevent them sleeping on a bench because it's ugly. So I messaged Professor Green, as you do, because you can message anyone these days, not expecting him to get back to me. Obviously, his real name is Stephen, not Professor Green. And said, hey, I've got an idea. Why don't we make a different kind of metal structure that doubles up as a support, which could create the support for a canopy? Could we potentially swap all of their metal bars for our own metal bars that I've designed?
Cheeky.
Which would fit as an armrest during the day, but then you could flip it around to create this support. Of an evening, we could hand out tarpaulins, and then we could use that as an asset to help homeless people get some shelter at night time. He went, yes, mate, let's go tomorrow. I went, oh, okay, that was unexpected.
Wow.
So that night I had to go out into Bedford, and apologies, Bedford Council, I did drill 4 holes actually, in one of your benches. I shan't tell you where, you'll never see it anyway. I drilled 4 holes to replicate the bar that Bournemouth had fitted. I then got myself a piece of aluminium and created a wonderful curve. And then the following day I went via a DIY store, bought loads of strips of aluminium, and then Professor Green and I met in Bournemouth. It was quite funny, actually. I was in my rickety old work van. He was in his G-Wagon cruising with all his entourage. I didn't really know much about his music, so I was listening to his album on the way down as well, being really cool, dancing around to Pro Green's greatest hits. And met him. What a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful human. We then went around Bournemouth, taking off their bars, with nuts and bolts, so we didn't destroy anything. And I kept all the old ones. I then fitted my bars, and then we handed out 25 tarpaulins to homeless people and rough sleepers, and the police turned up and they took us. Well, we weren't even arrested. We were taken to the Royal Bath Hotel for a latte. I imagine that latte was paid for by the taxpayer, which is terrible. So, like the most posh experience of my life. But the serious bit behind it was they actually apologised and said, you know what, you've done the right thing. So I remember phoning my agent saying, oh, Debbie, I think I might be in trouble. I'm kind of being escorted by police with Professor Green, the rapper, and I think I might need bailing out or something. And she went, I imagine he's got this sorted. Like, he's a bit more gangster than you, Max. Keep your cardigan on, things will be fine. So they apologised. Said, we've clearly made the wrong decision. The council are at fault here. They then, the following day, removed all of the bars off the benches. They didn't keep my hoops, unfortunately, but the rough sleepers got tarpaulins, which has helped them. And I realised at that time, wow, design is really, really important and life-changing. And I'm not telling everybody to go out there and be anarchists by any stretch. I think there's a way of doing things, but I think it is our responsibility to question design and say, you've got that wrong, mate. That's a really bad thing to make, that bar. They spent £3,600 on doing this as well. Actually, imagine £3,500 spent on mental health and allowing these people a bank account because they have no fixed address, or giving them haircuts, or think of all the positive things you can do with £3,600 rather than the bars and the benches, to encourage people to get off the street and to rehabilitate and to, get their mental health back on track. So that's up to designers. Well, that was a rant, wasn't it? But yeah, designers, we need more provocative, mischievous designers, please, education system.
I think that is a fabulous story, because it's just such a great example of what I feel when I think about this podcast, this idea that, we're doing stuff that lights us up. You're there in the thick of kind of designing, building, problem solving, which are the things that you enjoy, but also creating a positive impact while we do it. I often say, calling this the Mischief movement is not about creating a bunch of anarchists that are going to go around and terrorize people. It's actually turning things on its head, flipping the ideas, exactly what you just said, thinking about things differently, approaching situations and life with a different perspective, because that way we're going to come up with more innovative, more exciting solutions. And I think a big part of what you just said also revolves around having that empathy as well. I think that's such another undervalued skill that not everybody has, but when you have it, let's use it.
I think actually, it's funny you say that. I think in the creative sector, a lot of people, the majority of people I meet are empaths. They sometimes struggle with their mental health. A lot of them have ADHD and dyslexia and quite complex personalities. But I think being an empath and sensitive to people's requirements and needs and feelings is really important as a designer. And it's quite funny, actually, that when I started doing this, say 20 years ago now, I was just a designer doing things a bit differently. But now a lot of it is associated with sustainability, mental health, vulnerability, all of those things. And we should actually get back to vulnerability. Can I put that on the little list of things to revisit, please?
Yes.
But only, in fact, this weekend the following weekend, in 10 days' time, I've been invited to an event called the Rebel. I can't remember what it's called. Something about rebels, because they see me as being rebellious.
I love it already. I don't know what it's about, but it sounds brilliant.
I'm not entirely sure. The Rebellious Festival, let's call it. But I hadn't really seen and recognised that I am rebellious and mischievous. They weren't phrases that I associated with myself in the past. I guess I am, though. It was just, I'm a designer who does things a bit differently. But now I'm realising maybe it is all about being mischievous and rebellious and not doing things the normal way. Again, I tend to do everything. I'm quite sensible sometimes, not often, but I like my workshops really well organised. And I think certain areas of my life, I love a list, for example. So I'm not harum-scarum, disorganised mayhem. And I guess because my work is so creative and rebellious and mischievous, possibly, my tools all need to be in order and cleaned. I remember once I tried to go home from a shoot and somebody had lost my 13mm socket at my socket set, which is like the commonly lost one because it's 1/2 inch. And I couldn't drive past Halfords without going in and replacing it, knowing full well it would turn up the following day. But I felt a bit anxious knowing that was missing, because I have to have everything in order to be mischievous. Mm-hmm. Hey, I've only just realised that. Maybe I need so much more security in the other parts of my life to enable my brain and my creativity to explore those wild places that aren't the norm.
Maybe that's it. But, if I've helped you to think differently in asking you those questions, then I'm happy.
I'm happy too. So vulnerability, before I forget, that's something I've only just realised recently as well. I think, by the way, turning 40 for me was like amazing. At the age of 40, I realised I'm now 45, which is, I keep describing myself as young designer Max McMurdo. Oh, I need to change that a little bit. Like the young bit needs to go. But in my head, I'm 22 anyway. But
it's just a number.
It is, isn't it? But when you turn 40, you realise I don't really care what people think. I'm too old to get a proper job. You know, that national record of achievement, that burgundy.
Did you have one of those as well? Yeah, I've got one of those.
At school. Yeah, I've now realised that was nonsense. That was rubbish. My careers advisor wasn't particularly great. I didn't need to become an accountant and have a national record of achievement.
Can you remember what your careers advisor said to you? I just wondered if your careers advisor had any kind of interesting gems to dispense.
I don't recall any gems, but I'm pretty certain they won't have said, go and make furniture out of junk. Yeah, that won't have been on the radar, that's for sure. But yeah, going back to vulnerability, I've realised recently that is, being a designer is quite difficult, actually. I find the design element quite easy, and I'm now a lot more skilled because of experience of I guess, what might work, what might not work. And I'm probably more efficient at designing than I used to be, because you can go through a lot of the process in your head as you're being briefed almost. You can cut out all of the early parts of the design process, the more experienced you become. But you've got to be very, very brave to be a designer, because I can't think of another sector where somebody says, right, here's a challenge, go for it. And then after that, you've got to stand up and be really, really proud of something you've created, and the whole world can criticize it. You've got to wear your heart on your sleeve and say, visually and aesthetically, this, I believe, is the best solution. From an engineering point of view, I believe this is the best solution, and I hope you will like it. Heart on sleeve, I'm really vulnerable now. Go, attack me, give me all the negative feedback. You're all experts in your individual fields. That takes some kind of bravery. And again, I'm past worrying what people think. Now I'm old, and 90%, if not more, of my designs are nonsense. They do fail, and it's okay to make mistakes. Another thing I wish I was taught at school, I'd like to see on the curriculum mistake lessons. And you go into it and you deliberately make loads of mistakes and get things wrong and learn from it and put things right, and you evolve and you educate yourself through the art of mistake making. Because in maths, 2 + 2 was always 4, and I never liked that. I don't like it when it's a finite thing. I never make, in our new little business, our campervan business, we're never allowed to make finite statements. It's always what if, or how about, or could we consider, or potentially is this a solution? It's never the only way to do it, mate, is that. No, there's always a million ways of doing it, some of which are expensive, some of which are complicated, some of which are risky. But let's always explore them, and it's okay if we go round the houses and come back to the first thought we had, which was obvious and a bit boring. It's okay to go back to that, but let's make sure we always explore all of the alternatives.
So how do you feel about taking risks then?
I love risks. Risks are the dream. Risks are everything. So everything I do, I think, is a risk. If I'm not taking a risk, what am I doing? Why? I would never do anything normal. Or no, that's a lie. I'm not anti-normal. Sometimes, so here's something I learned. I'm quite anti-plaster. So when you're in a house, you're doing some architecture. There's a lovely phrase. You've designed something and you're trying to be different. And naturally, I don't like skirting boards or plaster and plasterboard. They just don't make sense in my head. Skirting boards are quite ugly. They never quite fit right.
Now I understand why you live in a shipping container. Now it's all beginning to make sense.
However, I have now done a bit of plastering, badly, I must add. And it's really hard. When you get to the bottom of the wall, you naturally pick up a little bit of grit or dust or something. You then scrape it back up the wall through the fresh plaster. So that's why a plasterer leaves a little strip at the bottom unfinished. So that's a beautiful wall, and then you cover it in skirting board. So I'm not always I'm not doing it differently for the sake of it. Sometimes I like to learn and explore and experiment and work alongside experts and ask why they're doing things the current way. If I feel there's still an opportunity to change the process and material, then I do. But sometimes you go, great, now I understand it. I respect the process and the techniques involved and the limitations, and therefore I accept that if you are adamant you want to use plasterboard, I don't think you should, and therefore you have to plaster it, then a skirting board is an appropriate method of construction. However, don't build bricks. Don't build brick houses in the first place. That's a nonsense. They're porous. They're not even as good as Lego building blocks bricks. They're stupid. But I've had several arguments with architects over bricks.
Well, I'm not going to argue about your house choices, but I do want to ask you about living in your shipping container, because I can't imagine that creating a home like that was easy, but how did it come about?
So no, it was absolutely not easy. It was really hard. And do you know what? It's still not finished in places, but my projects never are, because now I want to add more solar. I want to rebuild the decking to incorporate a little hidden hot tub and some planters and stuff. But yeah, I was living in a cottage. So I bought a cottage that was really run down. It was all I could afford. And I renovated it just in my spare time. And the estate agent came round and said, oh, it's worth about £50,000 more than when you bought it. And I went, oh, wow, that's amazing. I didn't do it for that purpose. I thought, oh, I could probably build something quite cool with 50 grand, and then I don't have a mortgage anymore. That would be nice. So I considered it, and I'd love to live by the seaside. I love water. I love surfing and paddleboarding, but I couldn't afford land, let alone property by the sea. So I contacted my local marina and said, how much is it for a spot at the marina? And then it's just a little monthly contribution, like you rent some mooring space. I thought, well, that's quite affordable. So I sold my cottage, freed up 50k, bought a 40-foot shipping container for £2,000, and thought, this is a lovely space. There's only one of me. I don't need 5 bedrooms. If friends come to stay, there's a sofa bed. We shouldn't have spare bedrooms. Spare bedrooms are a daft concept. That means you've got too much space that a homeless person could be living in, or somebody else should have that home who've got a bigger family. Could you downsize and have fewer bedrooms? But the houseboat, the idea was I wanted to reduce the number of spare bedrooms. I wanted to reduce storage solutions, because a lot of houses, if you move into a brand new build that's £300,000, as soon as you put a wardrobe or a chest of drawers in it, the bedroom doesn't work anymore because the door hits it or it blocks out natural light and stuff. It's like architects have forgot that humans have clothing, that we're all just walking around naked or something. So I've built all the storage into the floor. So in the lounge, the dining table comes out the floor. In the kitchen, all of the white goods are hidden under the floor for doing laundry and stuff, 'cause that's ugly. In the bathroom, the bath is under the shower tray. So you lift the shower tray out and you have a bath. And in the bedroom, the bed comes up to reveal a walk-in wardrobe. There's no additional furniture getting in the way. Because actually, when you look at the square footage of a house, by the time you fill it with furniture, it's usually, half as much as what you think you've got. So here, I've only got 40 foot by 10 foot. But it's all usable space because there's no silly furniture.
That's amazing.
And also very much open plan in terms of when you're cooking in a kitchen. So many of my friends have got like little galley kitchens. So when they go and cook, you're in the lounge or dining room on your own and you can't communicate. So it's really nice here. It all opens up, and I've got a wall of bifold glass doors, so that when you're cooking a barbecue or something, you can all have a conversation and a party and that sort of thing. So I've designed my house around the way I function. I got loads of cardboard boxes and wrote on them hob and fridge and stuff, and laid it all around before anything went in. It was just an open shipping container, and I just laid it all out and pretended to cook a meal and pretended to lounge and to go to bed and all of those things, so that I could understand how the space works for me, rather than a lot of these high-volume house design developer companies who just bosh out the same old thing repeatedly without even considering, have people's needs changed? Do we actually need an oven? Do we still need a metre-wide oven anymore when we all use air fryers anyway? Which, incidentally, are the worst-named products in the world. I love an air fryer. It's energy-saving. It's quicker, better food, and it's brilliant. But it's not frying, is it? It's just a little oven. It's just a really good little oven.
It's series 2, and I'm excited to be back partnering with Polite Club again, a brand whose mission is to change the attitude towards vulnerability and to encourage more conversation around it in order to increase real human connection. The vehicle for these conversations is clothing, or connection clothing as it's become known. And connection is one of our core values. So to bring more people together and help you rebel against staying the same, Polite Club are offering a cheeky 10% discount when you use the code MISCHIEF at the checkout. Sustainable, organic and rebellious, of course, Polite Club also uses 50% of their profits to fund proactive suicide prevention in the form of coaching, support and awareness raising, which enables people to understand their emotions and express how they feel constructively. Become a vulnerable with us. For more info on the brand or to buy online, go to politeclub.co.uk or follow on Instagram at politeclubhq. Now, on with the show.
What I love about you talking me through the design process is that right from the word go, it was all about the problem solving. You know, you strike me as such a curious problem solver, even to the point where you're like, right, well, I don't want to live in a bricks and mortar house. What are the alternatives? How do I do that? You know, and just going back to what we were saying before, you know, people, we just kind of grow up in this society of, but this is how it's done. And it takes people like you, and it takes people like the creative community to kind of step up and go, but why is it like that? Why don't we put this here instead of there? Why don't we turn this on its head? And, you know, just finding out how you have experimented in the creation of your house is just fascinating. I think it'd be such a cool place to go and visit. You know, if you were to say, right, you can donate to my favorite homeless charity, or whatever charity it would be, you can come and visit my house. I bet everybody would literally be throwing their money at you, because it's such an unusual place to go and visit, and to be able to see basically what's going on in your head at the same time, because you've actually, you know, laid things out as you've been thinking about them and designing it.
That's not a bad idea, is it? I should do that. People could pay to come paddleboarding to the houseboat and experience it. I like that.
I think they would.
You said a really interesting thing then. You said about growing up. And I think that's one of the dangers of society, is that we're expected to grow up. And the idea of growing up is that you buy a suit, shiny shoes, a 3 Series BMW, get a 9-to-5 job that you don't particularly like, that it gives you these IOU tokens. Money's not even real. It's just a token that says IOU. And then we conform and we do what is expected of us. And we stop asking questions. Because we've been driving around on a double-decker bus recently. I converted a double-decker bus into a workshop on wheels so I can get to people. Because I'm very lucky. I've now got my beautiful workshop. It's like Charlie in a chocolate factory. It's my little safe haven where I go and I experiment and I make silly contraptions. But not everybody has that. So I've converted a double-decker bus into a workshop on wheels. And we did it for a Channel 4 show recently. And we toured the country and we invite people to come on board and make things. And 100% of people, I would say, start off quite nervous because they're out of their comfort zone, because they're now adults who aren't supposed to be having fun playing and making things.
Yeah.
But by the time they finished, after maybe an hour, they all come off and say, I loved that. I used to really enjoy design and art at school, but then I just stopped doing it. Why? Why do we stop doing the thing that we love?
Oh, that makes me so sad. Yeah, exactly.
It's really sad, isn't it, that people have conformed. And I'm not saying I'm not an anarchist. I'm not somebody who's gluing myself to the road. I don't do those kinds of things. But I'm trying to be provocative maybe it's a more mainstream way. I don't question authority necessarily, apart from the bars and the benches, but question everything. Question how we live, how we travel, how we exist, how we have fun. And it doesn't need to be expensive either. What do you really want to do with your life? Like this weekend, I'm going surfing with my mate. It's free. Like I bought a surfboard, a couple of £100, and we're just going to go and catch waves on a beach and sit around a fire, because that's what we really want to do. Now we're combining that now with making camper vans, because we've both got vans and we love the whole van life concept. That's become really accessible and pleased to see, because it encourages people to get out in nature and explore. But we can mix business and pleasure. And that's another thing. People say, don't mix business and pleasure. What? Absolutely. Mix business and pleasure loads, because otherwise you're working in this set little period of time, which is the majority of your time. As much as you sleep, you work, leaving the smallest amount of time to do the so-called fun stuff. No. Exactly. If you can make your business your pleasure also, then why not? So again, next week, we're going to be in South Wales, surfing, barbecuing, paddleboarding, but also building camper vans that we will be given money for doing. But it doesn't feel like we're going to work. It feels just like we're playing. So don't everybody do this, by the way, because I still want my career.
You still need a business, yeah, I understand.
But consider, but are you living your best life at all times? So again, going back to that little business we've got, when we write lists, the first thing on the list is always, are we having fun? So are we making this decision because it's financial or visual or engineering, or because we feel we should be doing it? Or are we having fun? First and foremost, are we having fun? If we pass that test, then why else are we doing it? And therefore, should we be doing it? But I'm 45. I'm halfway through my life, however I look at it. I'm not going to waste the second half of my life doing things I'm not enjoying. Sometimes work isn't as much fun. Some jobs aren't as much fun as other jobs. You know, I like doing the creative upfront stuff. I don't like repetition. I don't like necessarily doing a big run of products. I once had to make 280 chairs out of bathtubs. That became quite dull, I suppose. I'm really proud I did them, and it was my design, and in my workshop my mate Gavin and I fabricated them all, and we were super proud of doing it. But after 250 bathtub chairs, they get a little bit tedious. So I lost my mojo a little bit in terms of being creative and something new. But I still loved the challenge of creating them. I'm terrible, actually, as I believe a lot of creatives, particularly entrepreneurs. As soon as one project is nearly financially viable and money making, and my accountant's starting to get excited, I go, nah, I'm done with that now. You go, no, you're just about to start making money at it. You go, oh yeah, that's why I'm bored, because I want to do something that's innovative again. And that's the beauty. Again, I keep talking about this campervan business, but that's what I'm sort of going into deliberately now, because every customer's needs are unique. So another experience I've had is that bespoke design is expensive and not everybody can afford it, and not every designer makes enough money because of that. They hide the hours. You know, those hours, you're a creative, you know, when you were designing shoes, I imagine, that you go, oh, I'm not going to charge for that because I was enjoying it. I was sketching. I was sat in front of the telly, so it's free. We never really add up our hours and charge £50 an hour, do we? Yet we pay our accountant and our bookkeeper.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other side of that is that you get clients who don't understand why you would charge for something like that. So, you know, it works both ways. You're also kind of led to believe that it's not proper work. So how can I charge for it? But it is. It's all part of the process.
You know, I'm the same even now. I'm lucky I have an agent now, so she can go and have those awkward conversations. So she can be Mr. Bad Guy.
Have them on your behalf. I love it.
Yeah, because she gets a percentage of my income, so she's out there being ruthless. So that's quite nice. I've distanced myself. But the campervan thing is, as well, going back to that, is that we've created a product that is really, really affordable for people, and they can do it themselves, but we're giving them a kit of parts. So that makes me so happy and so proud that people without much money can get into van life. Yeah. People who are tradespeople can slide these units into their existing van without spending £50,000 on a camper. For £2,000, they can have a fully fitted out campervan. Also, it means I'm creating an income for me and my business partner, which is important. Of course, we have to accept that money is of value to us all. We need to put food on the table. But also, we've now designed it in a way that we work out of our vans, so we can go and meet a person who has a van in our van on the beach in a beautiful location and create it using the 3D printer that slides out, using the laser cutter that comes out. So we're doing something we love. We're proud of our designs that's helping someone have a better life in a location we want to be in, charging them an amount of money that we're really pleased with because it's not extortionate. We know it's 10 times cheaper than any alternative. We all win. Yeah. It is possible that everybody wins. And the other thing I always do on the back of that is when it comes to pricing, which we've just touched upon, creative people are rubbish at money. We don't like asking for it. We don't like sending out invoices. Yeah. We don't like bookkeeping. We're embarrassed by asking for money. Probably most creative people, I find. Yeah. I actually now outsource anything to do with money because I know it makes me anxious.
That's a good tip, even in itself. I do think that's worth highlighting, the fact that you have got somebody there doing all the awkward stuff for you. Because if you're not very good at doing it, or it makes you feel anxious, then let's not let it stop somebody's creativity. Can you then get somebody on board who can do that little bit for you so that you can then keep going with the creative stuff that you love and make some money from it so you can keep going?
Yeah, one of the best decisions I made as a business owner was outsource bookkeeping and accounting. You can do a lot of bookkeeping yourself, but do you want to? And are you proficient at it? And actually, by paying a bookkeeper, would you remove that anxiety? And would they be so much more efficient that actually they might end up saving you money as well? So So yeah, that was one of the best things I've ever done. It leads me to do the job I want to do. But what I was going to say about money is, in every scenario, I think, if I was the customer, would I be happy with that? Just always put yourself in that person's shoes. Actually, do they feel like they're getting value for money? If not, why not? If so, that's fine. Ask them for that money. If I was to approach me for that product and that service, does that feel like I'd be happy? Yeah, absolutely. Great. That's where I sit then. If someone came to me and said, let's switch the roles now, yeah, I'm happy with that. Therefore, you're in a good place. That's how I always try and justify my money. Sometimes I must confess, because of my blue tick, I probably should add, I do get offered larger sums of money now for things and think, I'm not particularly comfortable with that. That doesn't feel right. Because in my head, I'm still 22-year-old me. I physically should be grafting a day's graft to earn X amount of money. And now that feels not quite the right amount of money. I'm not saying I'm rich by any stretch. I spend every penny I earn because I'm daft and I like things. But what I now do when I'm offered an amount of money that I don't think is correct is I think, right, what are their alternatives? Why are they giving me that much money to do that job? Well, they can go to that person who's more expensive but more famous or more skilled or has a bigger following on social, or they can go to that person who's more skilled, that's got a smaller following. Like, what are the alternatives? And actually, sometimes you go, well, if they want somebody who does more presenting on telly, they could go for George or Kevin or Kirsty, but they're more expensive than me. Or if they want somebody with no following that's cheaper, they can also do that. But they've chosen me for some reason. And also, what am I going to do with the money? I'll likely be investing it in designing new things for nice people, or helping a homeless charity, or going to Kenya to build classrooms, or I'm not going to start doing bad things with my money. So actually, I've learned that one of my biggest problems, I think, in my 30s was I didn't understand my healthy relationship with money. And I know why that is now, having done some counselling and therapy around it. Mm-hmm. It's because my dad brought me up. I had a wonderful upbringing, but my dad brought me up. He physically took me to Sherwood Forest every year, because Robin Hood, as you'll see from my tattoo on my arm, it says Robin Hood there.
Oh, yeah.
Robin Hood was my dad's hero and my hero, because he took from the rich and he gave to the poor. And you can hear the emotion in my voice because my dad's now passed away. But that was the main thing I grew up on, was the legend of Robin Hood. And how can you help other people with everything you do? And if you're doing something that isn't helping other people, is it the right thing to be doing? So I grew up very much giving everything away. I'd give things away when I was in a situation of need. I didn't get myself safe and comfortable first and then give to others. I would jeopardize my own safety to give to others because I didn't understand this Robin Hood syndrome, shall we say. So I've now realized that in order to be the best Robin Hood, I need to make myself safe and comfortable first.
Yeah.
This is just talking about psychology possibly now, and giving away my therapist's techniques. But I also have Braveheart written on my arm because being Scottish. So now William Wallace has to make me safe with his big sword first. You'll see I have the William Wallace sword behind me. It's not sharp, if the authorities are watching. But William has to make me safe and secure first. And then Robin can come out to play and do his philanthropic good deeds for other people. So, yeah, that's a little bit of an insight I wasn't expecting to delve into.
Oh, I love that, though. And you touched on there the fact that you've been building classrooms in Kenya. So it seems like there's no end to your philanthropic side. How did that come about?
So that is the best thing I've ever done in the world. It's phenomenal.
Oh.
It was an old school friend of mine, Paul Newman, the most beautiful human being known to man. He went to the same school as me, but was a couple of years older than me. So we weren't friends at school. I was aware of him at school because he was this beautiful, amazing footballer who went on to play for Derby County. He then, when his football career came to an end, became their community trust manager. I must confess, quite anti-football. I'm pro-rugby, anti-football. I don't like the greed and the cheating, and there's various problems I have with football. I love rugby. I was brought up to be respectful, big lads, calling the referee sir. I love all of that. So I'm coming to France actually later this year, I'm going to France in my campervan to go and watch the Rugby World Cup, because I think young young people need to see that as where they get their role models from. Big lads hitting each other really hard in the tackle legally, and then picking each other up and being respectful and having a beer afterwards. I love everything about it.
100%.
Mixing the fans, men, ladies, children, families. I love everything about rugby.
Me and my partner met watching a rugby game, actually, so we're fully on board with rugby culture.
He's a keeper then.
Yeah.
He's absolutely a keeper. Where was I going with this conversation? I can't remember. I've lost track now.
I was asking you about building classrooms in Africa.
Oh.
This is how the creative mind works, for anybody listening.
I saw a shiny thing go past. I was distracted.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise, in football's defence, that the majority of Premiership clubs and bigger clubs have a big charitable element to them. So he works for Derby County Community Trust, and he said to me, he'd seen what I was doing on TV and stuff, and he said, we'd love you to come on one of our trips. And I always made excuses. I always went, oh yeah, one day, but at the moment I'm too busy, or I wouldn't book it and put it in my diary, because that's what you need to do in life, is book things, put them in your diary. You'll work around it, no problem. If another opportunity comes in, you can do either side.
Yeah.
But I never committed, and I was probably a bit nervous and didn't know what to expect. So I got divorced. I recall I got divorced, thought, oh my goodness, this is really sad times. I need something to cheer me up. I know, I'll contact Paul. So I booked it in, and again, just didn't know what was going on. I had no expectations. I took a load of tools over there. I thought I might be of some help because I can fabricate things, I can build things, and got over there. And it was the best experience of my life, but also the hardest experience of my life, because the standard of living over there it's beyond, you can't comprehend that humans on the same planet as us, only a 5-hour flight away, are living in those conditions. So they have in their homes quite often no running water, no heating, no insulation. It's just a tin roof on some blocks or clay, mud. Those children they've never had a pizza. They've never had a shower. They've never been to a shop and bought something new. They're just existing. And the only meal they get is their meal at school, where they get maize, which is just a really disgusting porridge. They don't eat meat because that's too expensive. They eat a few veggies when they can get them. But it was just phenomenal. And in terms of being a driving force and something to get you into gear, that is great. You know, you've got 100 kids running around being so incredibly happy and positive with nothing. If you're up there cutting a roof truss, a little triangle of wood falls on the floor, a child will come and ask if they can have it, because they're going to turn it into a little car to drive around in the dirt. And you just realise, wow, we're so privileged. And for what it costs, you know, the cost of a coffee in the UK now would feed probably an entire school that supply all of their maize for one day to feed 80 or 100 kids.
It's very humbling to hear, actually.
It's really hard. When you come back is the hardest, because you then buy a coffee at the airport and think, what am I doing? But again, going back to Robin Hood, I had to learn it's okay to drink coffee, because that keeps me alive, and I am in this environment that's not seen as greedy or non-essential, and I can't starve myself here to go there, and then I'll be no good to them. So it's okay to live our life, and just occasionally I send them some money, and I support a project now about period poverty as well. So
that's interesting. Yeah.
One of the things I, particularly as a naive older man, didn't ever consider, embarrassingly, is that the young girls out there, when they start their periods, and this is another thing, let's talk about periods more. Like, it's a very natural thing. Let's not shy away from it, especially men. It's okay to discuss this. But young girls, when they start their periods over there, they don't have access to sanitary products. So they're embarrassed. So they don't go to school for 1 week a month. That's a quarter of their education they're missing. Yeah. They get behind with their studies. They drop out of school. So we've got a little thing that we're doing with myself and a couple of ladies out there. I bought them some sewing machines, and they've got hold of some textiles, reclaimed textiles. They're now making washable, reusable sanitary towels and stuff, so that they can then give them to the girls in the slums to hope.
Oh, that's amazing. And it's amazing that, you know, it's amazing as a 45-year-old man that you're taking that sort of project under your wing as well. So, and On behalf of the female population, this is so wonderful to hear, because normally these kind of projects are spearheaded by women who have some kind of understanding of that situation, and to hear a man talk so openly about that is really refreshing. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's made me go a bit tingly. But again, it's going out of your comfort zone. If you feel uncomfortable, good. If you're starting a business and it's making you feel uncomfortable, good. If you're designing something that's a little bit forward thinking and you're quite unsure where it's going to go and if you might fail, again, good. So talking about a subject matter you don't know anything about and I can't physically relate to, but I'm prepared to go out there and feel uncomfortable and ask questions and get it wrong. And I might use the incorrect phrases occasionally and not truly understand. I understand the importance of the product and what it might do for these young girls. So I'm happy I'll throw myself into every situation 100%, and sometimes I'll upset people. I'll get the terminology wrong. But I assure you, it's always from the heart and with good intentions. So yeah, I'm loving that project at the moment. That's making me really quite happy.
Oh, that's fabulous. I was just going to ask you something about going back to your campervan company, because one of the things that you said was making van life accessible. And it feels like a lot of what you do actually is about accessibility to people. You know, from the hands-on stuff that you're doing in Africa to the way that you inspire and educate from your position on TV, from then doing this kind of practical business of campervans. I mean, me and my partner aspire to own a van and live that kind of van life with our kids. We used to go out on motorbikes before the kids were born, and that's something that we don't do now. My children are 4 and 6 and we don't feel that comfortable going around on motorbikes, but being able to have a van, taking them with us, giving them the experience of just rocking up in different places, meeting different people, having different experiences, just feels like such a valuable thing to be able to give them. And yet we feel blocked by the price of that kind of lifestyle. So just the fact that you're creating something that makes it accessible to people is fabulous, because finally there's a solution on the horizon. And I'm excited. I was watching, I've been looking through some of the building work that you've been doing on those and the containers that you're actually creating, and it's exciting because now it feels like my dream is a little bit closer. And I bet that's how the people feel when they work with you as well. You're actually making people's dreams come true. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, do you know what? I've never really considered it in quite those terms, but that's true. And yeah, you've really made that clear to me that most things I do are enabling others. So I suppose I started off with upcycling because the materials were cheap. So I couldn't afford high-end designer furniture. So I got some scrap, and using my own hands, I transformed it into something I liked that was desirable. So it is all about accessibility. So you can get into upcycling with not much money. And then if you learn some skills, you can do DIY, which saves you money. So yeah, it is enabling and encouraging people who otherwise might not have access. And the campervan thing particularly. So I've been not banned, but I've been asked to not attend a certain motorhome show because the big manufacturers will be upset with me because they charge £80,000 for a campervan that I've repeatedly said is nonsense because it's made out of terrible materials, the same techniques that caravans have been using for 50 years in places. An 80s campervan or an 80s caravan, let's say, uses the same materials and techniques for cooking and heating and hot water as a new £80,000 motorhome. The manufacturers have not moved. They still provide you with a telly and an aerial for your telly. You heard of Wi-Fi? Like, what are you doing? So what we're trying to encourage is, well, the main objective of our campervan company, without turning this into an advert, because I don't want it to be that, but is that a tradesperson who works really hard Monday to Friday to earn a living, they have a van. Now, could they potentially have a floor rail system in that van? That means they can slide their tools out on a Friday evening. They can slide their motorbike or their electric bike or their paddle boards with a kitchen unit and a toilet unit and a couple of seats and stuff. Can they slide it in the same rail system that was there during the week, lock things down for safety, drive to their beautiful destination, and then utilise that van for work and play, basically, but on a budget? So it's lightweight, it's affordable, it's durable. It comes with we're not even going to put a warranty on it. We're going to say, if you have an issue, come and chat to us and we'll probably just replace it, or you'll want the next unit up or something. We're not even going to have a warranty. Of course, we're designing things that last. We're not going to say it's 12 months because 13 months later, it breaks and you come back and buy another one like that. No, you're part of our family now. So you'll be van lifing forever. If you've got a smart car, that's also okay. Buy the little kitchen pod and put that in your boot. It's a few £100. Get a tent. And then you might upgrade to a roof tent, and then you might upgrade to a slightly bigger car, and you can buy another unit, and it's all staged payments. Like, you don't have to find £80,000 or we'll try and sell you finance. If you can only afford £100, you can get into our system, and then at birthdays and Christmases, get another piece as and when you can afford it, making it accessible to others. And yeah, I guess that's not what my accountant wants to hear. He wants me, Stuart, you're lovely if you're listening, but he wants me to prioritise profit and stuff.
That's his job.
Nah, let's get people excited and enjoying it. And then if we're good at what we do, there might be some profit at the end of it. We will exchange money sometimes with people, but profit is not, we're not going to go, we must make 100% profit margin on everything, or 50, or markup, whatever. I'd never even used to know the difference between markup and margin anyway until recently. But that's not the priority. Let's create a brand that people love and enjoy. And if we do that with integrity and honesty and hard work and good design, money should, in theory, pop out the other end.
100% agree. And again, I love the way you just described that. I can just see this tradesman swapping in and swapping out these pieces in his van. And the exciting thing about that is it's not all work. You get to play as well. And, you know, essentially that's what I'm a huge advocate of. So this idea of creating a whole lifestyle that doesn't mean separating work from play, or just working and not even having that kind of playful fun element. I think that's so exciting about what you create. Everything that you create has that kind of fun element, and that's what makes your enthusiasm for life, I think, so infectious. But before I really blow smoke up your bum like that, I actually would like to know what you're going to do about this situation you find yourself in, where you've been banned from this motorhome show. Because knowing now that you're a bit of a rebel and you do like to disrupt, there must be something that you're cooking up, because I don't expect you to now turn around and say, well, I'm just going to take that line down and I'm just not going to show my face.
There is half a chance that I may rock up outside one of these events at the NEC with my van and camp outside the door with my friend in another van, or start creating units. So yeah, I will no doubt be slightly disruptive. And the thought that me attending one of these events might inspire the big manufacturers to change their ways and get with the times and stop using gas and diesel heaters and stuff makes me really happy. I don't necessarily want to go to a show and make sales for myself. If my very existence and appearance at that show makes them evolve quicker than they know they currently are, brilliant. My work here is done. I don't care if they make the money or I make the money. Let's give people better value for money and use technologies like LED lighting, the internet, infrared heated ceilings. There's so many really amazing products out there on the market now. They're still selling people really, really outdated products for an extortionate amount of money. So yeah, that makes me happy, just that very thought.
Do you know what I find really funny? Actually, there are these, £1 million companies, and what they've done is they've put a ban on a really small business, which means that ultimately you've got them running scared. And I think that's amazing. I think it's really funny,
that
actually.
Makes me happy. Yes, indeed.
They obviously feel threatened, and I think that's a good position to be in. Yeah.
Yeah, there will be an appearance at a show at some stage. I might have to wear a wig and glasses and a fake nose or something. But interestingly, it always develops as well. I'm not like some crazy genius who plots these kind of events and stuff. So the whole concept of us arriving with our vans at our customer's van, that only happened like yesterday. So we've set up this campervan company. It's a year old. We're very small. We're playing and developing still, and we're proud of the fact that we're doing that. There's 2 of us and a 3D printer and a CNC machine. And in all honesty, the last week we've been looking for a new workshop. And the reality is we love South Wales. Carwyn, my work colleague, he's based in Cardigan, West Wales. I'm in Bedfordshire. We're miles apart. And we didn't know where to get a workshop. And I've looked at a few workshops locally. He'd have to commute here. Blah, blah, blah. We've looked at workshops in the middle. And then we realised we don't want to be in a workshop anyway. Our clients would then have to come to us and leave their van with us. Then they've got to get home. And the chances are they want to be out there exploring and van lifing. So we said, well, why don't we go to them with our vans? We invite them maybe to go paddleboarding together. So our first meeting is going to be with our clients. We rock up in our vans with our paddleboards and we go out paddleboarding with them.
I love that.
Ocean, lake, river, wherever. During that time, they relax. We learn about them. We ask about their needs and their ambitions, etc., and their budget. And then we go back and then we open up our vans and all of our tools and production facilities are within our van on the same system, the same aluminium rail system. We can then say, right, you go off and do what you need to do, go for a hike or whatever. We're going to start fabricating your van for you. And when they come back that evening, fingers crossed we've done it in 1 day, it might be 2 days. But so we've worked with people we like in a location we enjoy. They've not been put out at all because we've got to know them and understand their needs. We've hopefully created a better solution to the problem. And we've made a living paddleboarding and hanging out with like-minded people and making their life hopefully better. And we haven't got the rent required for a workshop. So again, we've all won. So actually we can pass those savings on to the customer because there is no workshop overhead either. Happy days.
I just love it.
So yeah, I'm excited about my new business. Can you tell?
Yeah.
Can we do your van, please? Can we come to Italy and do your van?
Oh my God, I'd love it. I would love. We need to buy the van first, I'm afraid. But I would love that so much.
Well, any van now. Any van will do.
Right, I'll get looking.
Yeah.
Oh, I have loved hearing about this because I'm like holding it up there as an example now of what is possible. And I think the reason, the way you've managed to integrate work and play and being authentic and bringing in all of those things that you love is because you're willing to ask the questions and you're willing to be curious and look at things differently. I think that's your superpower. I think you just got to keep going in that direction because it's really, really working for you. But I think it's fantastic to be able to allow the listeners to understand that just because somebody says this is the path, it doesn't mean it is the path. And if people just allow themselves to be a little bit more curious, look, if you need permission, we'll give you permission. You've got permission. Go and just explore and play and experiment, and you're living proof that it's totally possible to unite all these different elements and still create something that's making money and still create something that's helping people and still create something that's really fun for you to do as well. So I feel like, if anything, if there's only one takeaway from this entire episode, it's completely possible to create a life that unites all of these different elements. Nobody can tell you no. You just kind of have to problem solve your way through it.
I love that. What a perfect way to end. What a lovely roundup. Yeah. And the word play, you said the word play a couple of times there. I love that. Be playful and don't grow up. Don't take yourself too seriously. We've got this one little life. We're a speck on this universe. Like, we're tiny. Don't take it too seriously. Be playful, stay childish and have fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this conversation, Max. I have loved every minute of it.
It's been a pleasure. No, thank you. It's much appreciated. It's been good fun. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Oh my God, I think that might just be my favourite episode to date. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today, and special thanks to my friend Dave Soul for his hand in orchestrating this crazy interview. For more inspo on living mischievously, sign up to the monthly newsletter or jump into my DMs on Instagram at Mischief and Hide. If you enjoyed the podcast, please share or tell a friend, which will help my mission to inspire and empower more people like us to choose mischief over mediocre. Catch you next week, and in the meantime, welcome to the rebellion. Ciao, ciao.
Was it okay?
That was nice. I liked that. No, I trust you implicitly. You go for it.
I must have a trustworthy face. That's good.
And the idea that I'm going to provoke some of the big motorhome manufacturers. Oh, I've got Alexa linked to my mum's front door, so I know when she gets a visitor. So it's just gone off. I do apologise.
Okay.